Every so often, our paths lead us to a new door, a new opportunity to turn the handle and take a step into a world undiscovered, a metaphorical leap into what we can be. Not necessarily to escape our existing reality, but to build upon it. Right? The truth is, our existence, our potential, our capacity for greatness, it doesn't have a ceiling. It's not a glass of water that hits a point and spills over. We don't know where our genius ends. We've never seen our maximized capability. Our spirit ability to innovate, create, and change for the better, they know no bounds. And every time we walk up to one of these doors, right before we turn that handle, take that step, we're reminded of a very important truth. That this life has more in store. And that's incredible, because where you look for opportunity, you find it. And by the way, this would be far less significant if we weren't so inclined to forget. We often mistake our present reality for the reality. It becomes easier to see what's wrong than right. The risk towers over and intimidates the reward, and rather than move forward, we stay where we are. But this door, this opportunity, this minute is a hand extended to you. It's an ally, it's a road sign, emphasizing that yesterday doesn't define you. You're not your past. You're what you do from here on out. We have the ability to change, grow, become what we've always wanted to be, but it requires first that we stop, if only for a minute. We stop and acknowledge that we have no clue what life would be like operating on all cylinders, because we've never come close. It requires recognizing that our dreams become our reality when we remove the fictitious line that separates them. There's a famous saying, as you think, so you shall be. And before you dare step through that door, you have to acknowledge that. Soak it in. It is the single most important power granted to you. If you make excuses, you will become your excuses. But if you see the opportunity, you will always be greater tomorrow than you are today. This door presents options. You can spend half your life saying you're too young, the other half saying you're too old, or you can push that aside and move forward. This step is about no excuses. It's about no hesitation, no regrets, not complicating the things that are simple. We have a finite amount of time, and you can either make the most of it or let it pass you by. That's it. Because before you reached this door, the little things held you back. The criticism kept you stagnant. Fear made regret seem okay. But now is different. There's magic here, because it's here you can reassess what matters. You can remove the armor that was weighing you down. You can acknowledge that falling won't kill you. Get rid of safety at the expense of progress. Life has only begun, and right now the only action that's required is that you close your eyes and you see the possibility. Nothing else. You create what's in front of you. You put it there. It's your narrative. So let this step and every step that follows take you to a world you dream of, not a world you've settled for. Sometimes all it takes is a reminder to help us realize what we have, what's possible, before you turn that handle. Leave the past behind you and move confidently into tomorrow. The path forward is not chance. It does not decide your fate, your greatness. You do. It's your decision. The path forward simply reinforces the choice you've made. So choose excellence and go make this year the best of your life. hope. Such a beautiful thing. I love that we want more. I love that we're able to look around and see the opportunity and the possibility. I love that we know we can pick up a pen and change the script, rewrite the ending. That's why the new year is so powerful. Because with it comes hope. It forces us to sit down and think, reflect on the delta between how we're living and how we could be living. And anything that sparks a light in us is worthy of our attention, but also worth examining. Because here's what I want. I want those resolutions and those plans to materialize. I want the new you to start its incredible evolution. I want the journey to begin. But I also want you to understand why we so often miss the mark with this vision for tomorrow. Because the truth is, you will wake up January 1st and everything will, for a moment in time, feel new. As we turn the page, we are refreshed and invigorated. But new has a short lifespan. New eventually gives way to the same realities we've dealt with in the last chapter, the same struggles, the same obstacle. So no, the answer to change is not novelty, it can't be. Let's not latch on to something that will slip through our fingers like grains of sand on the beach. Let's change the way we look at sustainability. Let's take the complex and make it bite-sized. See, there's nothing more discouraging than wanting the moon and realizing every day that although you're climbing and climbing continuously, you have no moon to show for your work, for your ascent. That mentality takes your progress and dresses it up as a loss. It disguises your gain as not good enough. In fact, it makes it easy when life starts suggesting other plans, pointing to old routines, to wave goodbye to that moon and jump right back into the chapter you thought you left. To truly change is not to focus on the outcome, but rather on the little steps that make the outcome possible. Your New Year's resolution is not to be the fittest guy or girl at the gym. It's to say yes to the physical activity every day. When you don't want to and when you do, when you're busy and when you're not. It's saying yes every time you're called to duty. Because looking like a model next week is impossible. But saying yes when the world is begging you to say no, now that's doable. Resolutions fail because we resolve to be the hero but omit the hero's journey. Wanting more is beautiful. Thinking bigger is incredible. But this year, let's remember that those who obtain big things don't think of them as big things, but as little consistent commitments, as showing up and saying yes. Look, life will never change just because the calendar flipped. No, life is going to change because with the refresh button came the yes. The yes every day to one or two small things. And while most drop out, while most eye the discrepancy between where they are and the goal, you'll move forward knowing that the only goal is to not quit. As Eckhart Tolle says, do not be concerned with the fruit of your action, just give attention to the action itself. The fruit will come of its own accord. So no, I don't believe in the new year, new you. But I do believe that if you're serious about change, the current you already has everything it needs. It's just waiting on you to look at the little things differently. To realize that when you're always focused on the finish line, can do more harm than good. And your results, they will come. But not because you said yes to the finish line. No, it will come because you said yes consistently to each step that brought you there. And that's what's been missing. That's what matters. And that's why this year, this new year, will be the gateway to something spectacular. There's something incredible about the prospect of starting over. Not because you're unhappy with who you are, or because each step that brought you here wasn't perfect in its own unique way, but because somewhere deep down, we can feel the infinite. We know that when it comes to what's possible, we are a flicker of light in a galaxy of stars, waiting to take shape, find our way, to shine out across the very elements from which we came. See, beginning again simply means a new chapter. It means the next adventure. It's places you've never gone, people you've never met. It's stories untold and dreams still dancing around in your head. There's an old Dr. Seuss quote I remember as a kid. He said, "Sometimes you will never know the value of a moment until it becomes a memory." And turning the page on that chapter is, if nothing else, a temporary reminder that we are in the very moments we'll look back on and smile. It shines a spotlight on the people that mean the most, and reassures us that the small stuff just might be the big stuff. After all, life doesn't dwell on the heartbreak or the times we fell, but the times we got back up. The times we looked with confidence at the road ahead and smiled at the horizon as each fleeting moment is discovered for the very first time. So here's to breathing in that ocean breeze, laughing until your stomach hurts. Here's to dreaming like there are no rules and living like there's no tomorrow. To creating your masterpiece, one word, one note, one brush stroke at a time. To dancing when the music isn't playing and sharing your song when it is. Here's to seeing the beauty when most walk right by it. Being light in darkness and a voice in silence. Here's to living life on your terms, paving your own path and writing your own story. The one where the hero doesn't stop until the princess is saved and the castle is taken. The one where reality is a reflection of imagination. Because if you do these things, when you look back years from now, you'll have a lot to say. But I promise you, I wish won't be one of them. Not because of what you were given, but because of what you chose to see. So I want to start with a story about cliff jumping with my friends. Maybe 4 years ago now, we flew into Las Vegas, spent some time in Vegas, and then we hit like national parks in Utah and then Arizona, and went all the way up the coast. When we were in Lake Tahoe, at the very end, there was this spot to cliff jump. This really, really high peak. And, it's notorious, and it was just like a scary thing. And I remember walking up, there were 3 of us, and 2 other people were there. It's like you have to hike up to it. It's kind of in the woods a little bit. One of my buddies walked up, and we thought he was gonna jump right off, and he stood there and he looked down for I don't know how long, a while. Ultimately jumped. As far as I knew, I wasn't afraid of stuff like that, right? So I walk out and I look over the edge, and I could not bring myself to jump. Physically, I couldn't do it. Rationally, I couldn't speak myself or talk myself into it. There was no more rationality going on. It was just, I was frozen in fear. And I just remember sitting there and looking down. And, people would come up and ask about it, and they'd be like, can I jump? And I'm like, go ahead, right? Like it almost got to the point where it was hurting my pride, and I still couldn't jump. And I just stood there, and I stood there, and I stood there. I forget how long it took. I don't really know, and time was probably felt insane in that moment, but eventually I did, and it was incredible, right? It was a forever long drop, and just the adrenaline and the excitement, and you realize for a second that type of thing, that's peak living, and there's more of that out there in the world, and all of a sudden you want to capture it and obtain it, and you realize what you had been missing, and then my friend came up after me. He stood there for just as long too, right? It's a very weird thing, and it's hard to explain. There are so many situations that are this peak in our life, this cliff that we know we need to jump from. We know the other side is better, or we suspect, but we can't bring ourselves to do it. And this all came from a quote I found from John Green, one of my favorite authors. In his book, Paper Towns, it says, "It is so hard to leave until you leave. And then it is the easiest goddamn thing in the world." And that's right on the money, right? Being on the edge of that cliff, it is terror, sheer terror. It is so hard to make that jump, and then you do, and it's like life opens up. And it's the same thing in this case, right? It's so hard to leave until you do. It's terrifying to uproot, to change, to go somewhere you don't know. But once you do, life opens up. It's incredible. The other side is beautiful, and it's waiting for you. All of this is coming to a single point, a rule that I use to guide my decision making. And the rule is simple. If you are not content where you are, that is your reason to jump. Because on that cliff, rationality dissolves. The future is unknown, and it's scary. And how are you going to logically talk yourself into a scary unknown when you're at that point? You can't. It doesn't make sense. And I think that's why so many of us are scared to make that jump. And we ultimately turn back and we concede and go, okay, I'll just stick with what I have. This isn't great, but it is what it is. I can't bring myself to make that jump. Right? We're all there at some point. I've been there. I've been there with speaking. Big cliff for me when I first started. Ultimately jumped and put me on a trajectory that changed my life, right? Same thing with making videos, same thing with my first client. Like all these things, they're terrifying. And in the moment, you can't logically speak through them, so you just have to go. It's like, well, how do you logically you don't, you just go. Because if the present, here's the rule, if the present is not making you content, go, jump, right? Never forget that the path, the future is comprised of 1 trillion paths, and you can bend them and shape them and remake them. And sometimes it won't work. Sometimes it'll, blow up in your face. But again, you're still presented with an opportunity to adjust and remake and bend and reapproach and continue forward, right? The only way to lose is to stay on that cliff for the rest of your life. And so if you needed some type of rationality, if you needed some type of reason, I'm hoping that maybe I can give that to you today. If you are not content where you are, jump. Because somewhere along the way, you'll figure it out. Every time I've jumped, it's changed my life for the better. Maybe not immediately, but ultimately. And as I say, that's what life's all about. So, hey, I hope you got something from this podcast. If you did, please subscribe, rate, review. Helps me get it out to the world. And guys, I appreciate that. And I will catch you tomorrow. Every single dream, vision, or idea in your life starts with a simple understanding that it's obtainable, that you can make it real. That's the beginning of everything. Self-belief is the gatekeeper that stands between current and future. See, if you think of reality as these city walls you're living in, it's not crazy to think that there are going to be people that only know that existence within the walls, right? That's what they see. That's what most believe. It's how they live. It is only self-belief, a confidence in something greater outside those walls that opens the gate, that expands your reality. And if you don't believe anything good exists on the other side, why begin? If you don't think you're capable of getting there, why start? And this formula is simple, right? Let's not overthink it. We only move towards outcomes that we believe to be possible. And that's more important than ability, skill set, strength. I mean, you name it. Believing in yourself trumps all that. Because the person with an inferior skill set, maybe an average natural talent, but they believe in something and they move towards it. They give everything for this idea. They know it to be true. They'll always beat the talented person that's unsure, that procrastinates, that has 1 foot in and 1 foot out. And if you don't believe in yourself, you're building a city on sand. Because I'll tell you what, great things, they're great for a reason. They're in rare supply. They're limited, which means not everyone can have them. Which means those who do have them have to fight for them, have to deal with being uncomfortable, have to give more, sacrifice more, pay a steeper price than the masses. And if you don't look in the mirror, stare yourself in the face and know you are one of those select few, what's going to happen when life kicks back at you? You'll fold. You'll resort back to what you know. You'll flee the battle for safety, security, and comfort. But when you know your movie ends at the top of the mountain, when you know at the end of the day you're going to cross a finish line or hold a trophy, your brain internalizes conflict differently, very differently. For someone with self-belief, obstacles don't make you wonder if you should keep going. Because you already know you have to keep going. I mean, come on, you haven't arrived yet. There's still a road to travel. No, in this situation, obstacles simply prompt you to ask how. How can I get through this? And that's the small discrepancy that changes everything. Because at some point, you'll look to your right and you'll look to your left and you'll find very few people get to the how question. They all stopped at if. I wonder if I can do this. I wonder if I'm capable. Well, they'll never know. They'll never see that sunset beyond those metaphorical city walls because they never truly believed in themselves. They never opened that gate. Look, I went through 16 years of education without a teacher or professor telling me, Eddie, 99% of life is just believing in yourself to figure challenges out as they come, to figure life out as it comes. That's it. Only X% make it through law school. Only Y% succeed at this and that. That's what you hear. But no, none of that matters. It's simple. Most of the world quits when things get challenging. If you don't, if you have the courage to believe and trust in yourself, you'll succeed. Why? Because you won't stop until you find a way. That's the power of self-belief. It's not quantum physics. It's not complex. You know, at one point, I didn't think I could make a living outside of a cubicle or office building. Then I saw others do it. And for the first time in my life, I believed it was possible. I changed my actions to support my beliefs, and here we are. At one point, I didn't think certain financial goals were reality. I didn't know about a free, flexible lifestyle. I wasn't aware of the type of relationships that would change my life. Why? Because they existed outside those city walls. I didn't believe they were real. I didn't believe in myself to create them, to make them in my own life. But with the change in belief comes a change in reality. You will always follow through on who you believe you are. So let's go back to that mirror visualization. At some point today, look at your reflection and think about nothing but what I'm about to tell you. Everything you need, you have. I promise you, you are equipped to change your life, the lives of everyone around you, and the world in which you exist. So take that fact, feel it, and never ask it again. From now on, the question is how. Your fate is not a coin flip, it's a puzzle. It's about arranging the pieces. And those two eyes looking back at you are more than capable of figuring that out. Ask simply, do you want it? And if yes, open that front door, take that first step, and inject yourself into a journey that will be unlike anything you've ever experienced before. A journey where you have the answers, the aptitude, and now the self-belief. And when you find yourself in the lowest of lows or the darkest of nights, find solace in that fact that will be more than enough to get you to dawn.